hands frozen. Frozen. I have my helmet on. I should take my helmet off. I just came back. Hey, look, I did a little bit of a skid stop. This is if you ever guys want to say why I always say do not use your front brake on the soft stuff. I didn't do anything bad there. Just a little bit of a skid. I started to get a little bit too cocky with this bike. I got to be honest with myself. I drive it like over a ditch. I've seen a bunch of people today. They had an old FJ 1100 there. I was like, oh, okay, so I stopped there. A 2-day trip from Montreal to here. It doesn't take 2 days to get from here, but it was like they're doing like a round trip. Oh my God, it is so cold today, but the bike is loving it. Oh good, yes, warm. Oh yeah, that's right, I got grip warmer. I should have used my grip warmers today. I did a whole bunch of crazy things today. Okay, first off, stupid me. I'm not going to bring my GoPro out. I'm just going to leave my GoPro at home today. It's a nice day. I know there'll be a lot of bikes out. But I get out to Kaz. As soon as I get out to Kaz, there's this stream of bikes. I'm like, okay, yes, I will chase them. And there's this big black Camaro behind him. So I didn't know. I figured, well, maybe it's a bike run, not a... I'm warming up my hands here. It's like only 10 degrees right now. It's like it's beautiful for the bike, very cold for the rider. I'm like shivering, considering like 3 days ago it was 38 or 40 degrees. Today feels like a very fall day. Oh, that's so nice. But anyway, so I noticed that I thought the car was just following them really closely because he was like probably it was like a motorcycle run. Sometimes you'll have like the breakdown vehicle, tow truck and whatever. But then I saw a gap, and I'm like, okay, well, why? Yes, I will pass this guy and catch up to the other guys. So I catch up to this group of about maybe, I'd say 20, 25 bikes. Mostly Harleys and cruisers, mostly Harleys. But and they rode nice and tight. I'm like, okay, so the guy on the tail end I didn't know what he was trying to do, because like usually when they don't want you to ride them, the guy will just move in the center and kind of block you. But he was kind of letting me in, so I'm like, okay, so I moved close, not too close, because their gearings are different, and I don't want to run into a group of people I don't know, right? Like literally run into them. So we started riding, which was good. Uh-oh. My nephew's sticker's coming. I'm gonna have to duct tape that on there or something. I don't know. That's what makes my bike a badass. Check it out. It's like that's when I'm nice. That's when I'm in happy, but this is when I'm in riding mode. Chomp. Anyway, I love the fact that my 5-year-old nephew, helped me put that on there. It's my favorite modification on the bike. But anyway, so I'm riding with them. I'm like, I was going to go down to Low in the mean streets of Low anyway, and I was going to wear my GoPro today. And right where they went is right where I was going to go and do a little funny little. Kind of the mean streets of Low, which is a tiny little town, and they started heading up to the dam. But before we get there, this is something about riding in a group, and a group that knows how to ride together and stuff like that. Now, I am the odd man out because I don't even know any of these people, right? But I ride, and I know that when you're in a strange group, you keep a distance until you know how the group rides together. We come up on a double lane. And I kind of figured they were going to gear it up a little bit for that double lane. So I'm like, okay, so I'm following, the tail end Charlie fairly close. I'm watching, the traffic behind me, doing what the tail end Charlie guy does de facto, whether you know people or not. When you're the last guy in the line, you protect the group, is what you do. That's your job. Right? So you kind of set the pace. So when things start to bottleneck a bit, you back off a bit and you slow down the traffic behind you. I'll use hand signals, I'll do whatever, but you keep the traffic off the rest of the group. So anyway, we see this car that's going really slow, so everybody starts to pull out and pass, and some of them are a little bit, but they all stayed in sequence. That's what told me that they knew how to ride. So it's just, they like nobody tried to overtake anybody. Like, okay, I'm passing and then I'm going to go around this guy. No, nobody would pass until the next guy goes. So very nice holding the formation together, and the group who was where, so nobody was all over the place. So they start going out, so I'm like, well, I start coming out, whatever, and all of a sudden I just see a stream of taillights, and okay, fine, because all I can see ahead of me is bikes, right, the way it is, even though it's a bit of a double lane. And then they all kind of like slow down to like second gear, first gear. I'm like, oh, what's going on? I'm looking behind me, I got my hand out to stop everybody behind me and stuff like that. I had to get a little bit fancy with the brakes and and not stalling the bike, but I did everything that I needed to do. Everybody braked together, and what it was, there was a cop with his four-ways on and the flashers on, but I didn't see it until we all came out after this, pulled out to go around this other vehicle, right? So what ended up happening was a cop, I don't know what the hell was splattered on the road, maybe it was a porcupine or whatever. He was there with a shovel, and it's just like, he could have put out some, like some other things to, because by the time you see the cop car, it's like it's not a blind corner, but it feels like a blind corner. And, hang on a second. I think I'm all fogged up. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Eh? It's like, all the gleam off the bike. Yeah, I don't know what's making it this poor camera. I think it was literally fogging up because it was in my pocket. And then So anyway, yeah, we all brake together. No problem for me. Obviously, I've got enough stopping power on a lightweight bike, and I have stopping power of a race car, so I have no problem stopping. It's the guy behind me that I'm worried about, which fortunately I did my job well enough that I kept the car behind us far enough back from the group that I was able to keep a little bit more length from the group to do this. So you come out a bit, so you could ride tight in certain areas, but whenever you get into a choky area, the tail end guy can move back a bit. No one's going to get in between you. Like, there's not enough room for a car to pass in between us, but there was also not enough of, not short enough of a gap that nobody has a place to go. So very nice riding skills. So I followed these guys. They went up to the dam and low. I nearly got trapped in there. It was kind of fun because I'm like, where are these guys going? I didn't know if it was a motorcycle run or just a bunch of people out on a run, right? So it's like, okay, well, it wasn't big enough to be a motorcycle rally run, so I figured I'd follow them. I follow them up to the low dam, and I get in there, and I'm like, there's one guy, he parks aside. I'm like, hey, you guys got a rally or something? He said, no, it's just we know somebody up at the dam, and we're going to be here for about 2 hours. So I turn around to go back, because I basically crashing their party. It was a private thing. The guy's like, it's kind of a bit of a private thing. I was like, oh, okay, I was just following you guys, but they were good about it. Whatever. So then I come to the gate. The gate's closed and locked. I'm like, oh, I'm locked in the dam. It's like, and then a bunch of other. I knew there was a couple other bikes that were waiting for the rest of the group, so they showed up. There's about 10 or 15 of them. I mean, this all plays out in like about 2 or 3 minutes. So they opened the thing. The guys opened the doors like, why is there a sport bike guy here? I'm like, I crashed in your party. So I come out, stream of Harley guys. Hey, yeah, how's it going? And crashing your party. It's really nice in there. I haven't been to the low dam since I was a kid, right? Well, on that side of the fence anyway. So I came back. On the way back, 2 bikes are behind me, and of course, I'm trying to get them to come in closer. So I usually wave bikes to come closer, because we're better as a group, right? It's safer to get the bikes close together because people tend to notice 3 or 4 bikes rather than a single bike. But however, when it comes to the slingshot corners, like I don't do anything foolish, but I'll slingshot through a corner and then let the guys catch up again. I did this, and then I ended up following out. So it was just like the perfect bike stalker day, and I didn't get any of it on footage. So from this point on, GoPro stays on, especially this time of year. All the bikers are at this time of year when it's not super hot like that. You get these bigger rides, right? And it's fun to join in on them. But the thing is that the real thing to keep in mind is the scenario that played out here. This could have been like a 25 bike motorcycle pileup due to a cop, not putting out the proper, caution signs. Yeah, he had the lights on and stuff like that, but maybe from his perspective, it looked like, well, everybody's going to see me. I'm on the straightaway. But the thing is you have 1 or 2 vehicles up ahead of you in a stream of 20 bikes. Believe it or not, you can't see the cop car sitting right in the center of the left lane. You don't see him there until it's like the first bike will see him. But if there's a car ahead of him, he might not. What happened was there was 2 cars, I guess, and the first car, I guess, was trying to cut in behind the other car, and they both had to slow down, which slowed the whole group down. And then everybody was trying to go around that car, but then they realized why the other guy was squeezing back and slowed down is that there was a cop right in the middle. So they couldn't see around him. It was just, I guess there's a bit of a crescent there. Like it's a straightaway, but it's a bit of a crescent. So that could have been potentially bad, but when I stopped the quick chat, I told the guy, I said, nice riding there. I said, you guys, when that cop was in the middle of the road there, I said that could have been really disastrous. it's nice to see how the entire group, yes, they kind of went in and out, but nobody took anybody's lane, nobody overtook anybody, everybody braked as a group, and then, once we got around, everybody regrouped again. They stayed together very nicely. He goes, yeah, he says, we ride together all the time. And that's one thing about, I'll hear motor vloggers talk about, some of them, what was it, Cycle Cruiser. He doesn't go on these big rides. He goes, no, I don't go on those big rides because, you always have somebody that plays a fool or somebody that doesn't know how to ride in a group. Now, the nice thing here in Quebec is that when we do take our motorcycle course, one of the things you do to get your experience on the road is you do 10 hours with following an instructor on the road in a group of about 5 bikes, which is very manageable. More than that, you wouldn't be able to manage all the students. But you cut your teeth in riding with a group. It's the best way to learn. Because you learn a couple of things, like the group will fall apart with the novices a few times, but once you start to learn how to ride as a group, there's a lot of people get very nervous because they don't know how to ride as a group. Giving the other guy space, when I see people riding side by side, they don't know how to ride in a group. You're going to get your buddy killed, or you're going to get killed, or your buddy's going to get you killed. You never ride side by side, especially on Quebec roads. Like in most places, people drive on the road. In Quebec, we drive on what's left. So, when it comes to my space this way, laterally, that's my sacred space on the road. And if you're into my sacred space on the road and I need to make a maneuver to save my life, you're going in the ditch or into the oncoming traffic. Why? Because survival of the fittest at that point. You know what I mean? And it's not even going to be something I'm going to do consciously. It's going to be something I'm going to do subconsciously. I'm just going to respond naturally to using my lane. And a lot of bikers will do that. I don't sit in one spot in the lane. I never can. But this is one thing I notice when I ride in the group. It's like it feels so different because it's like, hey, I have to maintain a position in the lane in the staggered formation. So I got to think a little bit more when I'm moving in or moving out. I tend to like to be at the tail end of a group or at the very beginning of a group. I like the tail end of the group because I love the view. Seeing all the bikes, nice and synchronized. When we did the long corner there in Vanosta, it was nice to see all the bikes holding the line, holding the speed. Everybody's where they got to be, and they're not moving all over the corner. You know what I mean? Like everybody, it's just a nice. We go through the corner, we come back out, we straighten up, whatever, like that. It's not like, okay, this guy's bouncing in and out. This guy's kind of going over the line. This one's like slowing right down. This one's speeding up. No, it's nice to see a very competent group. And I mean, again, I'm on a bike that is not geared for what they're geared for. So them, they got all that low end power. Me, I got all that top end speed. So I got to be very careful about how I, hold the speed with them. I'm going to be a little more busy on the throttle than them, and it's not because they're so slow. It's just that when they start to go a little bit faster, they put me into the power zone of my bike, which then the bike just wants to take off. So I have to kind of. It's not as bad as riding a 2-stroke, but you got to be a little more cognitive on the bike, or else you'll overtake the speed of their bikes and end up getting too close, and then you have no room to maneuver. But it was would have been of course, if I had the GoPro, it would have been a great learning tool to show you guys of like the unexpected things that especially in a group, an unexpected reaction like that in a group, to have people work together as a team. And then of course I'm the guy that just kind of using common sense as I come up on a big group like that, okay, don't get too close to them. And if you're at the tail end, do your job at the tail end to protect the group. And so, yeah, it worked out good. But that was a potential of a lot of bikes on the ground there because basically a cop didn't put out enough warning signs. But again, I understand what the cop was doing. I mean, that would have been an awful lot of, to tell you the truth, it would have been worse if the cop wasn't there, because the cop car you could see with the sirens and stuff. But the guy, I would have never seen that giant porcupine on the ground about the size of my tire on the back of the Jeep there. I wouldn't be able to see that through all the bikes ahead of me. So if I seen bikes just kind of breaking off left, right, and center, but I thought it was like, whoa, you know what I mean? It's like, what are they doing? Oh, geez, and next thing you know, you hit the big ass raccoon or whatever it is splattered on the road. Well, that could put you down pretty quick too, or put a couple of bikes down really quick. So, yeah, quick thinking of the leader because you have to understand, again, when you're in a group, like it's weird that because when you're in a group, especially if you're somewhere in the middle of the group, which is not a bad place to be too. I've ridden in the middle of the group. I have no problem riding in the middle of the group. It's just I prefer the view of the tail end, Charlie. The leader of the group, well, I might as well be riding by myself. But the leader sets the pace. So coming back, I had a couple of bikes behind me coming back. I waved for them to come up to me, but they just seem to want to stay back a bit. I guess because I did a couple of slingshots. What I mean by, just basically power on. Get in the corner and power on, and, just kind of, there's like three really great corners, and it's just like, nobody's going to ruin my ride, Mr. Skinner. You ain't going to ruin my ride. And then they'll just catch up to me on the other side on the corner. So I'd wave them up and stuff like that. But maybe they thought I was trying to race them or something like that. But no. It's just I have fun on that corner, and then I slow right down, and then I do the speed limits everywhere else. But the thing is that. The other thing about this bike today, number one, this bike is running so smooth. All that work I did do to it, somebody commented on my Professional Canadian Beaver Walker channel yesterday, the day before, saying, that bike's been treating you okay? I said, yeah, not too bad. It hasn't left me anywhere yet. I mean, it is an old bike. I mean, it does have old bike syndrome. All that maintenance I did, yes, it did pay off for those of you who asked. Yes, the bike runs smooth and quiet and very, it's not, today was different. Today was the smoothest this bike has ever been, but I did something a little bit different today. I run 39 to 42 PSI in the rear tire, typically. And I usually run 34 to 36 in the front tire. But today I went a little bit hot with 39 in the front tire. This bike has never handled so good. I just cannot believe how well balanced that is right now. It's dangerously, temptingly, like all the vibration in the bike was completely gone today. Like it was weird. But also too, that could be the cooler, being 10 degrees out, the bike's just, like the temperature's 10 degrees lower, engine running 10 degrees lower than it normally does because of all that nice cool air, which obviously the power, I swear to God, this bike has an extra 5 horse or 10 horsepower today. It's just, and it's so, it's a fantastic little machine. I would love to have one on a track one day just to see what it could do. The smoothness of it is fantastic. It does get a little bit rough. I mean, it is an old bike. I mean, it's, the shift first and second are starting to get pretty clunky on it. But other than that, it's just, it is what it is. But yeah, the tire pressure, I don't know if 39 might be a little bit high for the front tire. I usually never run a front tire that high, but it's just today I was like, well, okay, I'm not going to be doing anything silly today anyway. I do a couple of, roll-ons or whatever, a little bit, but again, I'm not trying to lose my license either. It's like I enjoy this too much, but I mean, yes, I have fun on the corners, gear down, power up, and just slingshot through the corners is always so much fun. But yeah, the moral of today's story is just when you're riding in a group, if you can really work with that crew that you're working with and get to know them and stuff like that. It was nice to see that kind of riding skill in a group that large on something that could have been very potentially dangerous and disastrous. The other thing today, there you can't see it. Like again, these Schenko tires are pretty hard compound. The next set of tires I put on these things is definitely going to be more rounded for handling. I can't imagine what the actual set of slicks is going to be like on this bike. It'll be just like, it's already mounted on rails with these things, even with the temperature it is today. Like it was holding the road pretty good today. I know my chicken strips are, whatever. Actually, I went over to there today, so it gives you an idea. I can use this. I choose not to. Why? Because these are hard compound tires and Quebec roads. But on a track, yeah, I don't know if you'd want to go. I don't know if those tires would hold on the edge there. They're a little bit too hard of compound. But I got over 10,000 kilometers, or just about 10,000 clicks, and I got to get some footage before the season completely changes, and do the 10,000 kilometer review and ownership of this bike. I I put a fair amount of kilometers on this bike this year, but mind you that we've gotten so much rain. I'm only at ride number 78. Last year I did 106 rides, and I started riding in August. So that gives you an idea how much riding I wasn't able to do, plus my finances being what they are. You guys know, I know, cry. Like today's a day where I would do probably, if I had the money, I'd do like 2 full tanks today. I'd do about 600K today, just riding around, blasting around, having fun with this thing. This is the type of weather that I love to ride in. Even if it's a little bit cooler, my hands are frozen. Again, I could have turned on my grip warmers. But what a great little run that I just went on there. Not very far, maybe round trip, maybe about 40 miles or whatever. I like those short little runs. They just kind of lift you up a bit. But yeah, there we go. So I guess I'll leave it at about that. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Yeah, and the like button. And yeah, there we go. Be true to yourselves, be true to others. Always do the right thing. Have yourselves a great day. Make sure you dress for the weather when you go out. But I tell you, the bike likes the cool weather. It likes the cool weather. But yes, keep an eye out for the 10,000 kilometer review of this bike. I know one of my subscribers, I actually got him. He enjoyed the videos. I know I don't put out the best video quality, but he enjoyed the videos on the bike so much he actually went out and bought himself a TT600. Now I know these bikes are a bit of a mixed bag. It always, like any sport bike, it depends on the previous owner and how much they beat up the bike. I don't think this bike was really abused very much from the previous owner. Just by the way it handles, the way it rides. I mean, it's a good little bike. But it is an older bike, and there were some quirks and quirks with them. There is kind of a little bit of old bike syndrome, just stuff you got to live with. It's just stuff that it does because it does it. No rhyme or reason. It seems to do funky things for a little bit, and then it does, and then it works completely flawless 99% of the time. It's just, I don't know why it does what it does, but it does what it does. But as far as reliability, I can't really knock it so far. But, when I put 50K on it, I'll be able to tell you, whether this bike is a good bike or not. But 10,000K is basically 6,000 miles. So it's not really that much mileage that I've put on this bike. In my younger days, I would have done that a lot more because that would have been my only vehicle. But now I've also got to feed this beast as well. And, so I got two machines to fuel up. So I try to put at least $20 of gas into this thing a week. I'd like to be able to do 40 because then that means if I could have an extra $60 a week, I could do like a nice little road trip every week with it. That would be really cool. But that thing takes $60 to fill up. That takes about just a little under 20. Plus with fuel prices going up. And that's my work vehicle, so that kind of takes priority in a lot of ways. But that thing actually probably gets just about as good mileage as this thing does. This thing, for a bike, gets horrible mileage. It's like 32 miles to the gallon or something like that. That's if you're riding behaved, you know what I mean? Like, it's a sport bike. It's not meant to, you're not buying them for economy. You're buying them because it's the cheapest way to get into a superpower. It's like a supercar for $4,000 or $3,000 or whatever. Is what it is. As far as modifications and everything coming up, we'll get into that later. I don't have the money to do modifications, and kind of going with the idea of it ain't broke, don't fix it. Although sometimes I do that anyway. But yeah, there we go. I'll leave it at that. So you guys have yourselves, be true to yourselves, be true to others. Always do the right thing. Have yourselves a great day. I'm going to go inside and warm up. I'm free.